Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube? This is SEL0320 representing JVS. This is a redo, kind of. I'd always plan on doing a part 2 to my review for X-Men Dark Phoenix. This is going to be kind of non-edited, but I am going to go and give you my most clear and concise perspective on this film, from good and bad, because I went through a lot. I'm not going to go into any kind of spoilers whatsoever. I want you to go into the movie open-minded. I had thought about kind of going off a riff of what a lot of bloggers, a lot of critics are saying about this film. I thought about going what Rotten Tomatoes is saying about it. I thought about going like, the back and forth that I've had in general with some of the other recent reviews. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give them my most clear and concise perspective on this film, for the good and for the bad. So what we'll do is we'll go off of the bad first. One of the things that I knew from the beginning, since I want to say 2017, is that initially this film was supposed to be going on a cosmic level. It was supposed to be taking place in space a lot more. I think James McAvoy had made in a recent post that initially the third act of the film was very different. It was going to be actually taking place in space, and it is very clear that the movie itself was kind of catered to that in the beginning of the film, because the very beginning of the film, if you don't know, is that it took place in space, and it was very amazing and immersive, and it visually looked really good. Matter of fact, the very beginning of it, when they went into space, and it was kind of like, they're the X-Men, they're going and doing this mission, they're going to do this, it kind of like platformed the movie into a really good feel, that I was like, man, they could go really deep with this if this was expanded even deeper. And that's one of the pitfalls of this film, is that if they would have positioned themselves on a cosmic level, they had to have gone deeper. The Dark Phoenix saga in and of itself caters to more mythos, more continuation, but unfortunately everybody knew this is it, you know what I'm saying? But the cosmic aspect of it, they had to cut it a nil at the point that they realized that not only were rights going over to Disney, but this was going to be the very last, Fox X-Men film to date, period. So we were no longer going to see these same actors, these same people moving forward with it. So that was a deterrent, because it was like, then you had this enemy. Jessica Chastain's character plays the role of Smith / Vuk, and what they're able to do, I think that the look of them is not good. The look of what they actually look like is not good. It takes, I want to say, there's an M. Night Shyamalan movie that comes to mind. That's all I can really say. When you really get to see what they actually look like. What they're able to capably do, you don't really know. You don't get anything behind it. But from the comics, they're very different. You know what I'm saying? I think that they could have gone with a different mind that would have worked a little bit better, specifically to cater to what their powers were, or even deeper than that, go more connected to what I thought, which is going to be directly connected to Xavier and Phoenix, with a certain other character that they didn't go with as far as the comic role. And part of that all is on an underlying, cosmic level, and that's not where they tried to push this. They tried to keep it simplistic, and I knew this, 6 months? No, a year ago. And I was kind of apprehensive about it. I was like, man, that sucks. But I was like, you know what? I just want to see this be a decent film. I want to see this be an actual good film. And actually it was. The Hans Zimmer score alone is very good. What he's able to do with this, one of his best scores he's done. The way that this movie is actually shot is very good. I think the cinematography was done very well. I will say another negative that I didn't know, I had to go back and find reference to it, was the fact that this film was directed by the same director that made The Last Stand. Now, the thing I'll say about this is that his name is Simon Kinberg. Man, he was a producer on Fantastic Four, but he's also a producer on Logan. But I believe he was the director of X-Men The Last Stand, if I'm not mistaken. Oh wait, no he wasn't. No he wasn't. He only did 355, and he did a... So he wasn't. Okay, so I mistakenly got that wrong. I'm sorry about that. But he was tied to The Last Stand, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, they did pull a lot of things from The Last Stand in certain moments, specifically with Xavier. specifically with some other characters. But then there were some amazing moments. There's a Nightcrawler moment that takes homage to a classic Nightcrawler moment in one of the best X-Men movies. There's an homage moment that takes place with Jean and Xavier that is very thought-provoking and captivating and very dark, but it seems at times very grounded. It's not going too far with it. But there is predictability throughout the whole entire plot. Like, you can pretty much predict where things are going to go. And I think one of the worst things that they did was a PR, I'm going through my notes, is the PR perspective in the very first trailer. Like, I knew there was a certain character that was going to die. I knew there was a certain character that also didn't want to be a certain character anymore. A certain actress didn't want to be a certain character anymore. And it was kind of like, at the end of Apocalypse, even though I didn't like Apocalypse, I loved the suits. I loved the way that they were platforming. And I was like, okay, you got you a new squad. Let's do this thing. And they start off getting bucked. And it's like, it just goes flat towards the middle part of it, because it was so much line of predictability that where are you going to go from here? In the beginnings of the movie, I went back, and my head went back and flashed to X-Men Days of Future Past. And there was an exchange that happened with the future Xavier and the past Xavier. And the whole entire movie, I was like, Xavier knows how to deal with this. He's gone through this already. You know what I'm saying? But I was wrong. The future Xavier has gone through this. The past version has not, because this is off of a totally different storyline. And so the situation, all we know is that they're going to get through it, because there is an end to Days of Future Past. There is an Xavier Institute, and that is not how this movie ends. That's not how this, from a continuity standpoint, they changed a lot. Matter of fact, there's a thing that happens in Apocalypse with Jean that implies something about the Phoenix Force in and of itself, but it's conceivably the main bad guys. It centers around this elemental thing that's traveling, that kind of intersects with the X-Men in space. And so that's a contradiction to what they even built up in Apocalypse. But either way, that's here nor there, because the whole point was about Xavier. Xavier, personally in this one, I was like, why is he being such a jerk? I was like, man, no, he's positioning people. He's pulling the brand on us. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's positioning people. But no, he's just a jerk. Matter of fact, like, he technically was the villain of this in certain levels. Certain things platform people's setup. I don't want to say demise, but setup. And it's kind of just like, there's a moment that happens when he sees a certain person that kind of shakes him out of that. But it was kind of just like, dang. But we're going to have to come back to this, because there's something else with this. Hold on one second. And that's the fact that Michael Fassbender and your boy James McAvoy are OG vets, and they crush every scene they're in. Like, I don't really understand the critiques. I'll go to the critiques on this one. Like, I don't understand the critiques. Would I have loved them to get more screen time? Yes, but the movie is about Sophia Turner's, Jean Grey's progression and downfall into the Dark Phoenix, and I think that Sophia Turner does an amazing job. One of the things I can't not say about this one is I think that everybody gave their best performance that have already done their roles. And, well, I take that back. James McAvoy, I think he was better in Days of Future Past, just because of the character choices and the way he was written, but he does an amazing job regardless. Michael Fassbender, probably his best. Man, he had an epic moment in Apocalypse that I was like, yo, did he really just take the elements from the earth and use those? I will say this from a negative standpoint, is that they could have really went for it. And I mean went for it in terms of destruction and elemental, like, environmental stuff. Like, one of the biggest things about X-Men The Last Stand that I had to detract the end is I wanted to see the Phoenix that could legitimately destroy planets. You know what I'm saying? And I will say by the end of this movie, you get a full-fledged Phoenix. But we don't get to see all that. You know, we don't get to see that true capability. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately. And I think that I could see where people would be upset with that. But at the same time, it does service the character better than it did in At Last Stand. As a matter of fact, Sophia Turner, I think, did better in this one than she did in Apocalypse. And that's part of her progression as a character and as an actress in general. Matter of fact, there was an interesting moment what happened with a character from her past that I was like, yo, she is very menacing and she is very OP and scary, you know what I'm saying? I think they did a really good job with that. But to add on to that, I think that the other actors that were involved this time around, I have to give a huge shout out to my man Ty. What's his real name? Ty Sheridan, that was in one of the biggest movies, Ready Player One. I got a little poster up there. He did an amazing job as Scott Summers. I don't care what nobody says. Like, I think this is the best Scott Summers we've ever gotten live action. And part of that is because there's no Logan. Like, he has an opportunity to be a leader. He has an opportunity to show his heart. He has an opportunity to show, you know, why he is regarded on the same level in need as Xavier, even though he doesn't have the same power set. You know what I'm saying? And they give him some really good moments. I would say the same exact thing for the actress that plays the role of Storm, Alexandra, that plays Aurora. She has some amazing acting moments. They don't really do as much with her in terms of the story or the script, just because it's in a confined 1 hour and 45-minute time frame. But they do stuff with her. I was actually appreciative what they did with that. Now, they did undercut my man Evan Peters. They didn't give him a musical moment. They didn't give him an epic, you know, slow down musical moment. There's a moment, and I think that that moment is kind of shaded in other things, but they don't give him that epic moment that I was kind of hoping for. But that's either here nor there. I would say that Nicholas Hoult definitely stretches and flexes. I think he did a really good job. There was one moment where he was having this conversation with James McAvoy. I was like, dang, they about to this is about to be crazy. But Jennifer Lawrence is underused. I mean, I'm not gonna go into why, but it is what it is. Let's see. Okay, one of the notes that I read is, even though there's a good mystery element, like, that would happen, there was too much predictability, and too much that was just like The Last Stand, in terms of the way the third act ended. Which, to my comment with that, is that they could have, I think that, I don't want to say that the movie that they were going to pick from would be Captain Marvel, but if there was another movie recently, I think that's it. I'm not sure, though. You can't quote me on that. But I would say that if you had an epic moment with Phoenix in space, it would make sense as to why the transition was, okay, we're going to keep this more grounded, more fleshed out, and this happened like in between the middle of the movie when it was getting shot. And then they redid everything. Matter of fact, there's a moment with Scott Summers that, at the moment that I saw him towards the third act, after kind of things kind of leveled, I was like, that don't seem right. that I wouldn't be the way that this would end if they would continue the franchise. You know what I'm saying? And just certain choices that they kind of made, it just doesn't line up with the way that Days of Future Past ended. It doesn't. It doesn't at all, matter of fact. What else? Ooh. So the Storm that is connected to the villains, is connected to Phoenix, is connected to what the X-Men saw in space. Honestly, it could actually be tied to something completely different. And I think everybody's missing the mark when we talk about Cosmic. And I can't spoil it, but all I can say is it could easily be connected with the MCU. It could easily be connected with Fantastic Four. But they don't go there. They kind of really hold back and play it very safe, and partly because they just don't own the rights to it. But those are the negatives that I have, and pretty much everything else is just, I had a good time with the film. Again, I think that there's some really key special moments. There's a moment where the X-Men and the Brotherhood kind of re-meet again, and the lines are crossed, and it's some good action moments. Now, it's not to the... This is, I would say, out of all the X-Men movies, this is the least amount of X-Men and Brotherhood mutants ever. Like, you can tell they are on a budget, even though the budget, I think they said, was like $200 million, but part of that, probably the reshoots, they had to cut back. But in terms of people that they can allow to come back, or characters they're allowed to be able to process and use, and I think that they did confirm that Skrulls were supposed to be a part of this, and it makes sense with certain things that they did in this film. But they just didn't. And I think that my personal opinion is that they had to progress, because they don't want to bite the hand that they're getting progressed to. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, the progress is these characters are going to go to the MCU, and moving forward, like, they're going to be treated completely differently, for good or for bad. Either way, it's like, if they would have went for the most epic, cosmic, Dark Phoenix moments, imagine this in your head, like, you're seeing like the Phoenix on the level of like world shaking, and you're seeing all the other X-Men just rallying together to try to figure out how to go and just preserve Earth, not just the surrounding area, but Earth, like what we've always kind of wanted. Would you want that to just be one movie and then they end it? Or would you have wanted that to be progressive? I would have been personally upset if they would have went all out and then they just kind of just left it there, and then Marvel just decided, well, we're rebooting this whole entire thing, we're cutting out all that. I would be actually really upset. And so I'm kind of glad that they cut what they did and stopped it and progressed back. It just doesn't give you that whoa epicness. But I still wouldn't give this movie anything less than a 7.5, because it's still not a bad movie. Like, it's not nowhere near as bad as X-Men Apocalypse. It's nowhere near as bad as X-Men, the Wolverine. It's not, I mean, the Wolverine rated R, I thought it was pretty decent, but this is my ranking, personally. I would say Days of Future Past. I would say, I'm sorry, Days of Future Past for number 1. Logan number 2, I would say X2, then I would say a tie between this and First Class, because revisiting First Class had an amazing villain in your boy, because he was such a good villain. And then it would be probably X-Men 1, and then it would be the Wolverine rated R version. And then it would be whatever those stupid other movies. but yeah, no. So I still rested this at a 7.5. I think there's a lot to enjoy from this, even out of all the things and negative things that I did talk about, because at the end of the day, it still stays true to this franchise. I think it does close out things pretty well, even though I would have loved to have seen them just go all out. I would have loved to them find some kind of way of making this connective tissue to the MCU, and sadly, I don't know that they ever will. I would love for these young actors to actually be progressed into the MCU. I think that with a good script, with a good director, and with good positioning, there's a lot of opportunities for these actors, all of them. That's just my personal opinion. Because I think that if you think about like your boy Chris Hemsworth and getting 2 turns and kind of failing, and then getting a whole different revamp with Taika Waititi with a great director and great repositioning, there was so much room with that. And I think that these actors, you know, some of the older vets, you know what I'm saying, are a little bit older, but the younger crew, like, even if they waited 5 years, like, they would be of the right age and right caliber, even if they don't have any kind of connection to what they did with Fox. Just allow them to be able to reprise these roles and characters and see what they can actually flex to be able to do. That's just my personal opinion. I think that they have earned it, in my personal opinion. But let me know what you guys thought of it. I would recommend you go and check it out, see for yourself. I pretty much nailed everything on every note. I love the cinematography. I love the score. I love the first act. I loved what they did with it. And I also think that there were so many amazing moments, amazing character moments, and things that I didn't foresee being within the confounds of what they showed as far as the PR and the promos and the trailers. But I do think on the other side of that, is that the promos, the PR did not help. The fact that they went from it being cosmic, being space driven, and then cutting that down, and then it completely being axed at the point when it was going to be transitioned over to Marvel anyway, or to Disney anyway. You know, it kind of was like, what is the validity of this? Should they have even made a Dark Phoenix move? Should there have been a Dark Phoenix film at the end of the day? I mean, that begs the question. You know what I'm saying? And other things in between was just some character choices with certain people. Again, I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say what. And I think they kind of did hold back on certain things that they could have really pushed the envelope with. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to have an entertaining time. If you've enjoyed this franchise, I think you're going to actually really enjoy it. This is my honest personal perspective on this. Please let me know what you thought about the movie in the comment section below. Please leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. There's a lot more content coming. A lot more reviews coming. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. I gotta go. Peace, guys.